up, guys? This is the 11th episode of the Fast Break Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Godsey, and with me today, I have my roommate and buddy, Tanner Dislin. Tanner Dislin, what's up?
Not much, man. I'm ready to dive into these Sweet 16 matchups.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to be continuing our mini-series on March Madness. Today we're going to be talking about the Sweet 16 and those matchups and the analysis of those and who can continue and who will fall. So bringing back a returning segment is the obscure player of the episode. In episode 10, it was a player from Tennessee from 04 to 08. He was a shooting guard, point guard. His name, do you have any guesses?
I don't. You stumped me for the first time in this college, little college expedition we're doing here. You stumped me.
Yeah, so his name is Chris Lofton. He was on the team that was like top 5 under Bruce Pearl at Tennessee. So very obscure. Wasn't expecting a lot of people to get that. And so today I have a obscure player reigning from the Oregon Ducks. And he went to Oregon from 2014 to 2017. He's actually in the NBA right now as part of the Memphis Grizzlies. He's a shooting point guard. He was second-team All-American in 2017, third-team All-American in 2016, Pac-12 Player of the Year in 2017, two-time first-team All-Pac-12 in 2016-2017, and All-Freshman team for the Pac-12 in 2015. You got any guesses?
I think I do. And some of the things you talked about, I remember that era of Oregon basketball and one player in particular. And I also do know he currently is in the NBA also. So I have a guess.
Yeah, so if y'all have any guesses, make sure you drop a comment in the comment section below or tweet at us on Twitter, and that will also be in the description below. So let's hop right into it. We're going to be talking about the Sweet 16. So starting in the West, we have Gonzaga, Creighton. Who you got there?
Not much analysis needed. Gonzaga has been absolutely rolling all season. Creighton, some thought were a surprise to make it Sweet 16, myself included. So I'm rolling with the hot hand, and I got the Zags comfortably.
Yeah, I think Creighton has inched by. They should have lost first round. They got luck with Ohio upsetting Virginia, and they just haven't looked very good. And Gonzaga's hands down the best team in the whole tournament, and I think Gonzaga takes this one very comfortably. Next matchup, a little more interesting battle of the Pac-12 teams. USC, Oregon. Who you got there?
I'll tell you, this is my favorite matchup in the Sweet 16 right now. This one right here. I think it's going to be absolutely amazing. Both teams are incredibly athletic, love to get up and down the floor, love to score. But I'm going with the Ducks. I'm going with Oregon. I think offensively they are just too much for USC. I think they're guards, and I mean, they're guards. The entire team is the same height. They all play along the perimeter. They're all incredibly athletic. And I think that can pose kind of a defensive mismatch for Evan Mobley, who's going to have to be, perimeter. And you saw what it did to Luka Garza. I mean, he was rendered useless on the defensive end. Mobley is a little bit more athletic than Garza, a little bit. But I'm still rolling with the Ducks. I think they'll outscore USC in a high-scoring affair. But Evan Mobley will also have a good game. I'm thinking 30-plus, but the Ducks win.
Yep, I think Oregon is going to play this game like they played Iowa. Unfortunately, they did beat Iowa. Very sad. But like you said, Evan Mobley's going to have the matchup advantage against Oregon's big man, if you will. And I think he's going to have a big game, but I just don't see Oregon losing this one. So now, Elite Eight, we have Gonzaga, Oregon. Who you got there?
Because, we talked about how Gonzaga is the best team in the nation. They have been all year. Oregon is a team that can out Gonzaga, which is just score. But they won't. They can, but they won't. Gonzaga is just too good, and the Zags move to the Final Four.
Yep, I agree. I think it's going to be a great game. I think you're right. Oregon and Gonzaga are very, very similar. Don't have that dominant big man we've seen with other teams, but Gonzaga just has more experience, more better players than Jalen Suggs, and it'll be interesting. It'll be definitely a game to watch. So now we have Gonzaga coming out of the West, and now down to the East, we have Michigan, Florida State. Who you got there?
I was talking about USC, and Oregon is my favorite. This is definitely my second favorite. I think this is going to be a fantastic game. An injured Michigan team who looked very good in the second half against LSU. I believe they were losing at halftime. I think they keep it rolling. I think in a very, very close game, Michigan edges out Florida State to keep the Big Ten hopes alive as the last saving grace.
So I agree. I think it's going to be a very close game, going to be competitive back and forth all game. But I think Florida State actually inches this one out. I think Michigan without Livers, I think it's going to come back and it's going to expose their true colors without Livers, playing a better team than they have in their previous matchups. So I actually got Florida State inching out the Wolverines.
And one thing I'll say is that Michigan's going to need Hunter Dickinson to be better. First round, they obviously won very comfortably, but last round against LSU, Hunter Dickinson was kind of nowhere to be seen. They need him big in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. Next matchup, kind of a surprising team, UCLA against Alabama. Who you got there?
I love to pick UCLA. They're playing great basketball right now. Kind of got a little lucky on the schedule, but I can't. I'm going with Bama. They're too athletic, too good, and I think John Perry and number one. I can't think of his name. Their other good player. I can't think of his name. I can picture him in my head. They'll carry Bama on to the Elite Eight.
Yeah, I think you're right on the money there. I think Alabama. Easily, I think it's going to be an easy game for Bama. I think UCLA's luck is going to run out, and Alabama moves on comfortably. So next matchup, you have Michigan versus Bama. Who you got there?
Another one, back and forth. But I think I'm going to roll with the tie. I think it's just too much athleticism along the wing. Perry and Jones will be able to score at will. And I think Bama moves to the Final Four.
Yeah. So I actually have Florida State, Bama, and I think Florida State's just not a good enough team. And like you said, Petty and Jones, I think they're going to run the floor in this matchup against the Seminoles. So we've covered the left bracket so far. Who are some of those matchups you're really looking forward to? You kind of are touch base on a few.
Yeah, for me in particular, it's USC Oregon. I'm looking for that high-powered Pac-12 offense, run and gun, score type of game. And then Michigan, Florida State, which I think is going to be kind of the opposite. A lot of half-court. Michigan isn't really a team that likes to run. They like to run their stuff in the half-court. Florida State might be able to get out and run a little bit. But if Michigan's able to set the pace, which I think they can, be more of a half-court, run your offense type game, I think, like I said, I think Michigan comes out with that. But those are the two games I'm looking at.
Yeah, I'm looking at the same two for same reasons. Hate to be repetitive, but I mean those two matchups are going to be must-see basketball. Of these teams we've talked about, who do you think could advance and maybe make a run at the Final Four?
Oregon is a team I'm looking at. I think they'll beat USC, and what we saw against Iowa, I mean, it was incredibly impressive. Great shooting, ability to get up and down the floor, dunk after dunk after dunk. Granted, Iowa's not a very good defensive team, but offensively, it was just a clinic. It was, and I think that sort of those sort of games are the games that will beat Gonzaga if you run into them in the Elite Eight. So I'm looking at Oregon to make for that's a possibility of a run.
Yeah. Do you think them not playing their first game against VCU that could have an effect beating Gonzaga?
I'm sure it could. But we saw what they came out and did to Iowa, and that looked like a team that had played every day for the last week. They were in sync. They were making their shots.
There was no rust.
There was no rust whatsoever. And if they can do that off of that 10-day layover after the Pac-12 tournament, and then this week, I mean, that game was Monday, so like Saturday, a little under a week, 6 days. I think they'll be fine, but it certainly could. And even it could work against Gonzaga. I mean, Gonzaga got their fourth game of the tournament, and Oregon's third. So maybe a little
luck.
Yeah, a little heavy legs for Gonzaga playing so many games and Oregon with that one off. But like I said, I think Oregon is the team that can make the run.
I personally think Oregon should have not been a 7th seed in the first place. I think they should have been a 4 or 5 at least. And I think they can make a run. But I never really expected UCLA to be this far. I mean, given they didn't have to play Texas, but who said their luck is going to keep going, and they somehow upset Bama and Florida State. It's possible. I don't think it's going to happen, but that's another team to look out for.
And to your point, just something to think about, the fact that Oregon is the same seed as Florida and Clemson in this field is utterly ridiculous. I think it is just an incredibly poor job of seeding Oregon in particular by the committee.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we saw Florida play Virginia Tech in the South region, and it came down to overtime, almost last shot. And then we saw Rutgers beat Clemson, and then UConn, Maryland upset. So
yeah, and I mean there'd be Oregon was the Pac-12 regular season champs. They've been playing great basketball all year long, and I guess the committee just decided to look at that one loss to Oregon State as deserving of a 7th seed, which, by the way, we'll get to Oregon State later because they are also still dancing.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right. Now, moving over to the South region, we got Baylor, Villanova. We got there.
I think this is very similar to the game over on the other side of the Gonzaga Creighton. Villanova is not really a team many people expected to be in the Sweet 16. They got a little lucky with North Texas beating Purdue, so they moved on. But I think Baylor's just going to be too much in all cases, and Baylor's going to run the floor, I think, very comfortably.
Yeah. All the analysts have talked about Baylor's backcourt being the best in the country, and Villanova is missing their starting point guard. And I think this is where the inexperience of the Villanova guards get exposed playing Mitchell and Butler against Baylor. I think Baylor kind of runs away with this game. But it's March, so who really knows? Next, we have Arkansas versus Cinderella Oral Roberts. He got there.
The best duo currently, or the duo that is playing the best in college basketball. Max Abmas and Kevin O'Banner finally get stopped. Arkansas is just too athletic at all positions. I can't remember his name. That Arkansas guard that locked down Mac McClung. Mm-hmm. He'll be doing the same to Max Abmas.
Devo Davis, I think, is his name.
There you go. And I just I mean Florida. Arkansas is not Florida. Arkansas is a better basketball team, a more athletic basketball team, and I think they'll get Oral Roberts, and the run comes to an end.
Yeah. So they actually played earlier in the season, given it was December where things were just starting out. It was a rather close game. I think Arkansas only won by 11. I think this could be a closer game than people are expecting. I could see Oral Roberts upsetting the Hogs. But with a 8 projected lottery pick in Moses Moody, who we haven't seen him go off like a typical lottery pick in this tournament. And I think this is a game where he just takes advantage of the weaker competition. And I think Arkansas has the guards to guard Abmas. And I think Justin Smith, Arkansas's power forward, a transfer from Indiana is going to stop O'Connor. And I think, like you said, they match up really well, and I think Arkansas moves on. Next game, go ahead.
I just agreed there.
Yeah, next game, surprising matchup. Loyola Chicago, Oregon State.
How great is that? How great is that? The entire when this bracket was released, the entire nation was talking about the possibility of DeSumo versus Cunningham, and they both lose. So we've got Loyola and Oregon State. I'm going to go with the team I thought, and I don't think this is an incredibly controversial opinion, that Loyola was the most underseeded team in the field. They had an incredible season and beat a lot of good teams, and clearly beat another one last week. And I'm rolling with Loyola. I think Cameron Krutwig is going to feast in the middle, and Loyola moves on to the Elite Eight.
I got 5 words. Sister Jean can't be stopped. And Loyola Chicago Ramblers move on against Oregon State. Then we got Syracuse Houston. Who you got there?
I got the Orange. I do. I think they could ride the hot hand because Buddy Boeheim is a bona fide scorer. He does not miss, it seems. And I think he's able to keep that going, and Cuse is able to do what they do best, and that's make threes and score a lot of points. And they will outscore Houston and dance their way to the Elite Eight.
Yeah, so this was an interesting matchup because Houston is the second best defense in the country. And obviously, the Orange have Boeheim signed Buddy, and he's been dropping buckets. This is going to sound stupid, but if Houston could stop Buddy, I think they win very comfortably. I haven't seen much from any of the Syracuse players besides Buddy. So I actually have Houston taking this one. Now, back up to the South, we have Baylor versus Arkansas. Who you got there?
This would be a fantastic matchup. But I still got the Bears. I just think they are too good, especially in the backcourt. We always keep coming to it. They are the skill in the backcourt, the defense in the backcourt, and the shooting in the backcourt, I think, carry the Bears over the Hogs and dance their way to the Final Four.
Yeah, so in my original bracket, I had the Hogs in the Final Four, and they are my only Final Four team still rocking, and I can't go against that. So I got the Hogs actually upsetting the Baylor Bears in a very close one. I think it's going to come down to the last couple possessions. So I I hope that happens. I really do. I think it'll be a fun matchup with both teams' guard play is just outstanding. Next, we have Loyola Chicago versus either Houston or Syracuse.
So I have Loyola playing Syracuse, and I think Loyola moves on in that game. You saw what Loyola was able to do to Ayo Dosunmu and Kofi Coburn, especially off the ball screen, and I just feel like they'll be able to lock up Buddy Boeheim, who uses the ball screen a lot to get open. So I think Buddy Boeheim will struggle against the Loyola defense, and I got the Ramblers for the second time in 4 years. Second time in 4 years going to the Final Four.
Yeah, so I have Loyola Chicago versus Houston. Houston struggled against the Rutgers Scarlet Knights, and I think they could possibly struggle against Syracuse. I think they're going to have some trouble with Boeheim, but I think they move on. And I think Loyola Chicago heading to the Final Four. Sister Jean, baby. Sister Jean, that's all that matters. So we talked about the South and Midwest region from Sweet 16 to the Final Four. What are some of the matchups you're really looking forward to?
I'm really looking in that Midwest region. I think Loyola and Oregon State is going to be a great matchup. Obviously, we talked about Oregon State recently. They've been as hot a team as anybody, winning the Pac-12, coming in and beating Tennessee and beating Cade Cunningham and Oklahoma State. And we also talk about Loyola, how they're an incredibly skilled basketball team and incredibly underseeded, and they can do damage in this tournament. So that's what I'm looking for. And the other one is just on the bottom half of that is Syracuse-Houston. Because you mentioned about Houston's defensive prowess. But what's interesting to me is that Houston is a bunch of skilled defenders, while Loyola is they are skilled defenders. They have an incredible team defensive scheme. So I'm wondering if the incredible one-on-one athletic, very good defenders is enough to stop Buddy Boeheim. I don't think it will be. You think it will be, so it should be. It should be a pretty great matchup. So I'm looking at those two in the Midwest.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna go to the South. I think Arkansas and Oral Roberts, just with the Cinderella story behind Oral Roberts. It's hard. From Arkansas, it's gonna be hard to see if Arkansas goes down to Oral Roberts, but it would also be kind of funny because my brother's a huge Arkansas fan. I could talk some smack. But yeah, it's kind of, do I cheer for my hometown team or do I cheer for the Cinderella? That was a tough matchup, and I'm looking forward to that. And then the next round in the South, I think if Arkansas advances, that could we talked about in our previous episode of Texas Tech, Arkansas being one of the best matchups.
Which it did not disappoint.
Yeah, it did not.
If you watched the game, it certainly did not.
It came down to one dude just absolutely just missing a layup, and Arkansas actually ended up winning. And I think that could happen against Baylor versus Arkansas. And I really hope it happens. Would not be surprised.
Yeah, I agree. Baylor versus Arkansas. I mean, I want the legend of Oral Roberts to continue, but that Baylor-Arkansas matchup would just be, it would be must-see TV.
Absolutely. So we have our Final Four, our revised Final Four, if you will.
Sure.
Who you got going to the championship, and then who you got winning it all.
Sure. So on the East-West kind of semifinal matchup, I have Gonzaga and Bama, and I've just said it every time we've talked about it. Gonzaga is just too good, too skilled at every position on the floor. I got the Bulldogs, and then on the South Midwest, I have Baylor and Loyola, and in that matchup, I'm leaning with the better team. I think Baylor. That, like we keep talking about it, that backcourt is too good. And the fact of the matter is, when you're playing basketball, backcourt has the ball in their hands a lot of the time. So my national title game would be Gonzaga and Baylor.
And who you got taking it home?
It seems like this is the matchup we've been wanting all year, right? 1 and 2 preseason. They were actually supposed to play in the non-conference, but I think one of the programs contracted COVID. I think it was Baylor, actually.
Anyway.
But I'm just going with the best team in the field. You have to, and I'm going with Gonzaga. And Mark Few finally gets that championship.
Yeah. So for my Final Four, I have Gonzaga playing Alabama. No, I actually have Florida State winning that one, but I think, like you said, Gonzaga is just too freaking good. And Mark Few rolled on to play in the Natty, and then from the South, it's honestly a toss-up for me between Baylor and Arkansas. I think whoever wins this matchup is going to be in the finals, because I have Loyola Chicago going in the Midwest, but I think either Baylor and Arkansas are better than both of them.
So you got the winner of the Baylor-Arkansas game going on to the title game?
I do.
So for you, that'll be the Hogs?
I think I got it.
Might as well, right?
And then so we have Gonzaga versus Whoopig, and I think it's hard to bet against Gonzaga.
Mm-hmm.
So I got Gonzaga winning it all, which I had in my original, just everything else was wrong. So
yeah, me too. And if you go back and watch the previous episodes of my bracket, I had the Gonzaga Baylor championship game, and then in all my glory, I decided to change it at the last minute, and that did not work. So I'm going back to the original, and I got Gonzaga Baylor and Gonzaga.
So let's do a little recap on our brackets. So, in your Elite Eight, who'd you have?
Okay.
Just run through it.
Okay. Gonzaga, Iowa, and Michigan, Texas, and Purdue, and Ohio State, and Illinois, and West Virginia. And
So I'm very similar to you in that. I have Gonzaga, correct. Iowa,
yeah.
Florida State could move on. I had Texas. That's just heartbreaking. And then I had Purdue, also incorrect. Arkansas, Illinois, and West Virginia. And in my Final Four, I still had two potential teams alive in Gonzaga and Arkansas. And then the two I got wrong were Texas, Illinois, and I had Gonzaga, Illinois, with Gonzaga winning in my original bracket.
And if I continue on my original, or I guess my revised, because my original, you can look on the past episodes, I had my Final Four was Gonzaga, possible, Texas, and Ohio State, and Illinois. And I had Illinois moving on to play Gonzaga in the title game, and Gonzaga winning it all. So my champion is still alive. That's all I can say.
Yeah. I mean, as much as it's a pain to see your bracket be sub 50% correct, this is what makes March Madness great.
Absolutely.
I'm all for it.
Absolutely.
I mean, I had Ohio State in my Sweet 16, and they dropped the first day.
And we were never happier watching that game and watching the upsets unfold.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you got any other statements on this crazy March Madness?
Not really. I just think you look at the field and see that the legend of Oral Roberts will be one that's talked about because they're the second 15 seed to ever make the Sweet 16 behind Florida Gulf Coast. So hopefully they can continue, depending on where your league is, of course. But like I said, the duo playing best basketball in college basketball right now, Max Abmas and Kevin O'Banner. Watch out for them too if you haven't already because they are balling.
Yeah, absolutely. It's gonna be a wild one. Looking forward to it. Tip off tomorrow. It's gonna be a lot of fun to watch. Thank y'all for tuning in. That's all we have for today's episode. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share with all your friends, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.